All right, good to be back with everybody for episode 18 with Outside the Lab, Athletes Lab, powered by Under Armour. We are here with a very special guest, longtime friend, colleague, Ryan Fecteau with Virginia Tech. Ryan, Coach Fecteau, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Well, we really appreciate your time. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to get at it. I'm going to go through a brief background, here with Coach Fecteau. So he's been at Virginia Tech for 3 years now, the third year. Before that, you were at Maryland.
Yep.
And then before that, you were part of all those great teams, led the staff, pitching staff at Bryant University, top ranked team for years and years in the Northeast and nationally. So had unbelievable teams up there. And then before that, you were at St. Lawrence. All right, and where we first met was whenever we were both young coaches at USC Upstate in 2008-2009 season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And before that, you were at Southern Utah.
Yep.
All right, and then before that, it was St. Lawrence.
Yep. St. Lawrence again. Yep.
So played baseball in the Northeast, but just so the listeners know, he is a very fiery competitor, one of the best guys I've been around, one of the best baseball guys I've been around. And then after you left Upstate, we were able to spend some time up in the Northeast whenever you're recruiting all the talent up there and wouldn't let them go south. But anyway, man, it's great to have you on, and that's a brief background. On top of that, I can't, go on without mentioning the staffs that you had at Maryland and Virginia Tech. You guys are doing some great things. You're doing some great things this season until the season was cut short. And not only is the season being cut short, but your recruiting is really getting cut short. So, let's go ahead and dive into, what you guys are doing and to prepare for recruiting. What are you doing for the upcoming season?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit. Well, it seems like it's changing daily, but we were in obviously a good place for next year. So there's not much we're doing with that. Just trying to figure out what to do with those incoming guys right now for the summer to get them prepped for the fall. But, the 21 class, we've got some really good pieces already. We're always looking. So we're trying to just be patient pretty much with the rest of the high school guys. And I think, the recruiter in you always wants to add, and keep going. But I think we're trying to take a little step back right now, try to get to the fall, hopefully, where we can get a good look at some guys and, establish some relationships a little better. But right now, I'll tell you, the transfer portal's the crazy thing that's going on in college baseball. And, I mean, it's like 40 guys a day on that thing, it seems like. So there's not a whole lot we can do right now. But, I mean, when we first got here, since, when you first take over a program, it's like all recruiting. We've been in a pretty good place, I think. So now it's just kind of waiting and see what happens with the draft, see what happens with some of these NCAA legislative things that may or may not pass, and we'll go from there.
That's awesome, man. So just so our listeners know, what class recruiting wise, you said you're pretty good with 2021. What classes are you focusing on right now? Are you, do you guys feel good about 2022? Where is your main focus? You're always recruiting.
Yeah, we don't ever stop really with a class. It's more just so like the 21. I say we're good. We've got I think it's like 4 or 5 pitchers. One guy being a two-way guy, but that are very good. But you don't know, like one of those guys might get drafted. You don't know what's going to happen with your current roster, who's going to get drafted and sign, especially now with the way the draft's getting kind of shaken up. So we never stop with. Well, we won't stop with that class. That'll be an ongoing process throughout the year. And then, 22 class is still, fairly small. I think we're at like 4 pitchers in that class. Try to get to like, 4 to 6 usually. And then 23 is obviously really early. But the thing with our level, it's you typically don't have many seniors on your roster. So if you think about like a 4 to 6 member pitching staff per class, then that gets you to, 15, 16, 17 guys on your pitching staff typically, because it's made up mostly of freshmen through juniors.
Nice. So that's a good take on the philosophy of a recruiting guy, pitching guy at a top ACC school. Now, what are you guys doing at Virginia Tech? Because you're obviously in a very, very competitive baseball conference. What are you guys doing to separate yourself from North Carolina? All the big schools, NC State, all the big schools in the ACC. What are you guys doing?
It's kind of hard to separate yourself from a lot of those teams. We felt like we were a little behind the 8 ball when we first got going, but the vision of this administration with this program was really good, and that's a big reason Coach Chef took this job. I mean, they built us a brand new stadium. They've put in a lot of resources. Like, I know we've talked a little bit about the technology side of things, and they've really made a commitment to the development aspect. We've added Rapsodo, TrackMan, Blast Motion. We got Win Reality this year. There's a lot of pretty cool things that we're doing. Slow motion camera stuff. So, when we first got going, it was about like recruiting for the most part. We got the facility in place. Now we're trying to really implement a lot of the development side of things. And, I think now with our player personnel is in a really good spot right now. I think we've got a lot of good, talented players that seem to be buying into the culture aspect of it. So that was the other thing, trying to, implement your culture, which is always a tough thing. I think we were just tapping into what we thought this thing was going to be, because we thought we made some good strides last year, and then we were off to a pretty good start this year. You never know how things are going to play out in the ACC, because you can be good in that league and still lose games, but it was on a good track. I really liked what our team was doing, and I thought the pitching staff was doing some really good things to start the season too, which is kind of unfortunate to not see it make its way through the season.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were rolling, and talk a little bit about, because development is a huge part. And I wrote down a couple notes. First and foremost, you have to be able to recruit at a high level to compete in the ACC. So that's where your focus was. In order to do that, you have to show, the resources and the growth of, from an institutional level, a baseball level. So obviously Virginia Tech was committing to a ton of resources and providing the things that you guys needed. That's really important for our listeners to understand. Whenever you're looking at places and colleges, you want to look at not only rosters and coaches, but are those programs and the institutions, are they committing themselves to growth? That's a big aspect. But talk a little bit about what you guys are doing from a developmental standpoint now that, and you hit on a little bit, now that the recruiting and the facilities in place. What are you guys doing to develop your guys at a high level?
So I'll speak for the pitching staff for right now.
Okay.
We hired this kid, Kyle Sayers, who was fresh out of college last year, which is a little unconventional, but he was at Elon and worked with Elon's baseball program for the second semester with the spring, back when Sean McGrath was the pitching coach there. And, he had started the baseball analytic club at Elon, and I believe won like the national championship with his club. And that's against like all the Ivy Leagues and all that stuff. So, he once he got done, we had this position that opened up, and we had all these great resources, and the department put all this money into this technology and development, but like we needed to figure out the best way to implement everything, because like I can teach pitching and stuff, but like I can't write code. Like I can't decipher a lot of the stuff, and he's got that background, so he was working with Team USA, you know, the younger group, some of the best high school players in the country at the time, and he had some pro offers. So like he really wanted to get into college baseball. It was a really good fit for what we were looking for, and you know, I actually think the kid's going to end up being a pitching coach someday, even though he has no college experience. I think he's really, really smart, but he's been able to really basically put together all of our guys' strengths through analyzing the data with Rapsodo, with TrackMan. Obviously, like video I already did, but like he's able to help with that stuff too. And you know, he just puts things together for our guys to visually see. So it's more real-time visual feedback than anything. And then like obviously like with TrackMan, that's a little more through, you know, scrimmages and games. So like that's stuff you can evaluate after the fact. But in the bullpen, it's just like we talked about, it's become such like a lab now where guys are just they see it right there and they're able to try different things and get more feedback, and they buy into it so much easier now, you know. So there's so many different ways for guys to learn, and it's like, I mean, think of all the guys you've coached in the past where it's like you tell them to do something and they there's no way they can do it because they either can't feel it or they can't see it. So
That's right.
now we're trying to attack it all together at once, and you know, if you can't figure it out, then it's more on you at this point.
So you bring up an interesting topic that we talk about all the time with all the resources and feedback and smartphones. Even if you don't have TrackMan or Rapsodo at this point in time, I mean, you're given instant feedback. We really didn't have that, you know, back in the day whenever we were playing or early on in coaching. You know, you would look at video, then you'd have to go into the office, put it up on the TV. Now, I mean, you know, you have a whole lab where you're getting that feedback and it's going right onto the screen. It's instant. Now you can work on that pitch. So players, they do have to be accountable. There's a high level of accountability. We talk a lot about that in our organization. Give the listeners an idea. If I'm in a bullpen and I'm throwing a bullpen for Coach Fecteau, all right, and I throw a pitch, what are the type of things I'm looking at, and what is some of the instant feedback that I'm getting?
So we'll take a changeup, for example. Okay, we'll say like we got a right-hander on the mound. So his changeup's just like very average, or you know, not getting a ton of movement, and we're really focusing on the movement pattern of it. Okay, so like he'll throw a changeup. We'll have the slow motion camera behind him. So right after he throws it, okay, we can visually watch, was that a good pitch, basically, you know, with our eyes, and then look back at the video. And let's say it wasn't a good pitch. Okay, why wasn't it a good pitch? So, for example, like I try to tell guys, like we're trying to get the changeup to basically roll off the inside of our middle finger because we're trying to create a certain spin axis. So for like a right-hander, it's about 230, okay, that we're looking for to get the most movement on the pitch, like a Steven Strasburg changeup, okay? So like some guys, they can let the thing kind of just roll off that. Some guys have to really like almost turn it over. It's like a turnover versus a swiping action, basically. So you got to kind of figure out how guys, you know, how their hands move through the ball, that type of stuff too. But that's so they can see visually how they're coming through the baseball, where it's coming off the fingers. So like if it's coming straight off the end, they're not going to get the same spin axis on the ball, you know. And then looking at the Rapsodo data, like they could throw a pitch and be like, oh, I thought that was a really good pitch, but like the data on the Rapsodo might say otherwise. So like with fastballs are a really good one for us right now. So like say a guy has very average spin rate, his induced vertical break on the fastball is very average, meaning like say it's like 14 or 15. It's very similar to like the horizontal break. Like that fastball is not going to play, you know, it's going to get hit. So we try to find ways to pitch with the fastball, like how to get more carry on it, how to get more movement on it. Spin is one of those things. It's really hard to, you know, get guys to change the spin rate on a lot of pitches unless you start, you know, using some tacky stuff. But, you know, there's just a lot of things that you can see that allow you to, I guess, use your stuff in a certain way to get the most out of it. That's what we use Rapsodo with. Whereas the camera helps more with like the pitch to pitch adjustment because they can visually get the feedback. So that's some stuff we do in the bullpen. We obviously we do stuff with breaking balls and all the pitches too, but the changeup's the one where I felt like we had a lot of success with developing this year for some guys. And they just got to, once they get it in the bullpen, they just got to do it in the game then. Oh, I lost.
Sorry. No, I was on mute there. So absolutely, that's really good stuff right there. So if I'm if I'm a guy that comes into Virginia Tech and I'm working on all this, and obviously these guys that you're recruiting want to go on to play professional baseball, they've got to find ways to increase their velocity and spin rate, all that good stuff. Mechanically you're going to make adjustments, but what kind of focus do you put on the weight room or arm care, flexibility? Walk us through all that from a physical standpoint in development.
So we hired this guy after our first year, Brian Neal out of Mississippi State. He was the baseball strength conditioning guy there for about 7 years. We were lucky enough. He interned at Virginia Tech early on in his career. They're from he was from Virginia, so it was just a perfect scenario. So he came in. I honestly I have so little to do with the strength conditioning side of it because he's so good at what he does. We communicate all the time with basically developing programs around our guys' throwing schedules. So I don't ever talk to him about what they're doing because he handles that, but it's more just figuring out how to schedule everything basically around, all your guys' different schedules. So he's done a really good job with that. We have a trainer that's with us every day who handles more of the rehab recovery stuff, more of he'll do a lot of the arm care stuff at the field because we're lucky enough where we got a training room right next to our bullpen. It's in our indoor facility. So our guys can kind of go in and out of that when they're done throwing and even if they're getting ready to throw. So I've got a trainer that kind of handles a lot of the arm care. I got, a strength conditioning coach that does all of our weight room stuff. And he's done a really good job of individualizing our things too. So we got, obviously the freshman guys that come in, they've got to work from ground zero basically, so they come in the summer. We actually bring them in early and they take a couple classes. It's about a 5-6 week deal. So he gets them a really good base throughout the summer while we don't even have them throw. So if you think about that, you get a month and a half of just lifting without throwing. Then we get them built up for the fall season, which it's made such a difference, man. Because when I've done this in the past, it's okay, freshmen come in, they all start lifting for the first time. They're sore as hell every single day.
Yep.
And you see this throughout the fall with their velocity. And you're like, oh my God, how's this kid going to even compete? And now I'm telling you, since we've been doing this, they've been doing this throughout the fall. They just keep climbing.
Wow.
And they get stronger and stronger. They feel good. Their arms are rested. So it's worked really well for the freshman group. And then our older guys, they're just, they're on a little bit different level. So we got this one kid, one of our weekend guys, Ian Seymour. We were fortunate enough, so he was a Massachusetts kid. So he had a background working out at Cressy's up in Massachusetts in high school. And, he's a little more advanced. So he does a lot more explosive movement type stuff. He's not just, your squat, your deadlift. He does all that stuff too, but he does some dynamic things. And he works out I think he does 5 lifts a week in between a start, but they're a lot shorter things. So, he likes doing that. It makes him feel good. But then we've got another one of our starters on the weekend. He does 3 lifts, so we try to individualize. We want guys to feel as good as possible when it's time for them to take the ball every 7th day. So, we just got to work and communicate with them in that regard. But yeah, I mean, it's been really good with how we've kind of divvied up things. And you know, I'm not specialized in strength conditioning. Like I've done it out of necessity at like Division III schools, you know, and but that's not my background. So I'm really fortunate to have some guys around me that know what they're doing, and they've done a great job with this group. They've kept guys healthy, which is like the number one thing. And you know, the guys have seen big time gains. I think the first thing when we started too is like we were in a little bit of a maintenance mode, like second semester at the beginning. So I would see guys kind of dip that first year towards the end of the season. And his program that he has, they're actually like they're in gaining mode till about the ACC start of the season, even a little further into it. So like we were seeing guys' best velocities last year our very last weekend. It was pretty awesome.
Man, that's what it's all about, because now you're going into the ACC tournament, you're going into possibly regionals, and that's obviously where you want your guys the strongest. I mean, you don't want to lose them at speed and velocity towards the end of the season. So that's really good stuff. And what you're talking about is, you know, from your viewpoint, is now trying to manage all that. I mean, you're customizing it. You're talking about from a strength condition standpoint, you know, arm care, analytical, and, you know, you're managing all of that right into, you know, into the season, and you're taking a ton of information and data. You're dealing with a lot of different individuals and personalities. Talk to us a little bit about managing the staff just overall.
Yeah, gosh, I feel like I'm changing like every year. I'm probably as laid back as I've ever been at this point. It's funny, like, so working with coach, he's the one coach I've been with that I never hear yell. Like, he never yells at the players. And it's pretty incredible because, like, you know, you have days where you just want to, you got to let it out some days. And he is really good at staying positive. He's always said, you know, he wants a good working environment with the guys. So he wants guys to come to the field every day and want to be there, want to work. So it's really rubbed off on me quite a bit. You know, I've tried to be really positive with the guys. Obviously, you gotta, you know, give them a little kick when they need it. But we're just trying to really enjoy being at the field, and I think it creates a better learning environment. So, like, my whole philosophy with our guys is we've got to teach them a lot of this stuff. So I know I talked about, you know, some of the analytics stuff and the bullpen and everything, and that's great if we can tell them those things, but they need to understand it as well. So we actually spend a good amount of the fall teaching a lot of what those numbers mean, you know. So we'll actually watch a lot of video on some big league guys. We'll do some pretty good comp stuff. So each guy ends up getting their own sheet, which has got a pitcher that they're compared to, kind of a breakdown of their stuff and their delivery. So we try to find guys that are very similar, look at how they pitch, why they pitch that way. And we're not trying to necessarily change a guy into someone else, but I think it's good for them to see how some of the elite level guys do it. So, you know, we're trying to basically get them to become their own pitching coach by the time second semester rolls around. So they know themselves, they're aware of what their body's doing, they understand how to make changes, you know, they understand all the data that we're giving out to them, and they understand why they're pitching a certain way and what their strengths and their weaknesses are. So if we can get to that point, usually it just becomes we're literally just having conversations, you know, throughout. We know what we're doing. We know how we're going to attack hitters. It's more about us, and it's not about who we're playing. So, like, I'm not going to bring in a fastball slider guy, you know, to face a left-handed hitter out of the bullpen and throw a bunch of changeups. You know, we're going to bring in a guy that matches up to that guy, basically. So we try to do a really good job of that, guys understanding what they are.
Coach, let me hop in for a second. I'm going to ask you, you've done a phenomenal job talking about the baseball program and specifically your pitching staff at Virginia Tech. Talk to our folks a little bit and showcase the campus itself. And we're sitting in the Hickory area. We're right in the middle of ACC country. But our folks often think, to the middle part of our state with Carolina, Duke, NC State, and maybe don't even realize that we're just 2.5 hours from you guys in Blacksburg. So showcase the campus, the area, some of the good things that are going on, maybe outside the baseball program up at Tech.
So it's weird. It's a big school that's whatever 32,000 plus, but it doesn't feel like that. It's in a small town, that's basically out in the mountains a little bit. It's a beautiful campus, man. Like it's ranked one of the top 5 campuses in the country every year, but they take care of the thing. All the buildings are in that hokey stone, which, makes it look really nice. So aesthetically, it's great. The whole downtown area is, your typical small downtown with all the local restaurants and shops and everything. But the cool thing is Main Street of downtown is actually connected to our campus. So like you could walk right by the library, right by the student center, and you're walking on a brick path on downtown now, which is kind of neat. So like as a student, you don't even need a car here really. Like you're just so connected with the town and the community. And that's kind of the cool thing, I think, where it's like, usually you have your university and then the city or the town, like it's all one here, and so like everything around this area is Virginia Tech. Everybody loves the place. The town's only 40,000 per population, but then you have the students, which make up the same population as the town. And whenever you have game stuff, football obviously is the big thing. You get people from all over that come here. They fill up the stadium every time, like 70,000 fans. It's a pretty cool atmosphere around here. Number 1 food in the country, for dining. Dining's really good here. I think the support and the fans, especially with sports and just like the people that have gone here that come back and support this place, it's pretty incredible. I've never been at a place like that. Like even when I was at Maryland, like I would go to the football games and it would be like half the stadium filled, tailgating was kind of sparse type deal. And, it's a different animal. It is pretty cool.
Being close, it is neat to see. When you guys, I'm thinking football, when you guys come down to Charlotte bit for the Belk Bowl, or there was the game over in Bristol not too long ago. People are those Virginia Tech fans. They're very, very supportive, and that's awesome to see. And a quality education too. You guys for engineering. Different fields there, big time education coming out of there. So
and we have to mention Caleb Farley, Cam.
Right.
We mentioned Caleb Farley out of Maiden High School, big time football player at Virginia Tech. There are a ton of Virginia Tech fans in this area. Yep. And you mentioned it, but it's the close proximity. So we're looking forward to getting you down here. That's for sure. From a baseball and get some baseball guys from this area up at VT.
We'll take them.
Hey, with all that being said, I'm a piggyback off Cam on this. I'm sold. I want to come to Virginia Tech. Don't you, Cam, play in that atmosphere in the ACC, in the mountains? So I'm going to act like a 16-year-old kid. Tell me and tell our audience, our listeners, what does it take to come play for Coach Fecteau, the tangibles and intangibles?
Well, if we – that's an interesting one. So obviously we want good players that are talented. But I'll tell you, man, like the more I do this, it's more about the mindset than anything. And we have made a big commitment to that, the mental side of things. We have Brian Kane that works with our team. We just did a Zoom call with him yesterday. We try to really get our guys to buy into that. The whole mentality thing. And I know it sounds simple and everybody hears it, the pitch to pitch mentality, but like if we can get our guys locked in like that, throughout a season, then we're going to be okay, but it's hard to get kids to lock in like that. So I think the mentality thing sets a lot of kids apart. The work ethic is another one. I can't begin to tell you how hard our guys work, especially the good ones. So it's one thing to get into a good school, a good program, but that's like half the battle. The next part is just figuring out how to get on the field consistently, because now you're with so many good players. And I think guys learn that if they're not getting better every day, they're basically getting worse, because other guys on our team are getting better. And then it's trying to get guys to buy into, okay, if you're not getting better, our team's getting worse, because North Carolina, those guys are working every single day. Clemson's working every single day. So, like, you can't take days off and let someone get an edge on you. So trying to get that stuff across to, the recruits, and, just we want guys that want to come here and that want to work every day, basically. We're getting good students anyway because it's a good school. So academically, like, we usually don't have any issues whatsoever. And we don't really recruit bad students, to be honest. That's part of the whole package with what we're looking for. We're looking for low maintenance guys. So they take care of their stuff in the classroom. They take care of their stuff off the field. Their priorities are in check. So, obviously we want guys that want aspirations to play in professional baseball. I think that's important too. It gives them some pretty good goals and some stuff to work towards. And then obviously we kind of implement a lot of the team goals once they get here. But I don't know if that kind of answers.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna recap that for our listeners, because I want to put some big explanation points on that, because it's something that we talk a lot about at Athletes Lab, the things that you're hitting on and really what it takes to play at a very high level. And you didn't mention one thing about a fastball. You didn't mention one thing about spin rate. All right, we haven't gotten into that. You didn't talk about body size. What Coach Fecteau just talked about was mentality, being able to basically live in the moment, be able to train, at a high level mentally, just not physically. Next, you talked about work ethic. You got to have guys that obviously have a very, very high capacity for working hard. You talked about guys that want to get better every day, so they're touching some component of their development every single day. Good students. You don't recruit bad students. So you're not going to recruit somebody that has a 2.7 GPA and doesn't have aspirations of graduating with a 4-year degree and moving on into the real life at a high level. You talked about low maintenance guys. All this really comes into low maintenance guys, which for me, you're talking about guys that are accountable, guys that are responsible, guys that are going to take care of their business on and off the field. And lastly, you talked about guys that have high goals. Obviously, if they want to come in and compete at the highest level at ACC and have goals of developing a high level, then these are the type of guys who are going to play pro baseball. So that just highlights a lot of points I wrote down from what you said, which was fantastic information. From a physical standpoint, give us an idea. And you don't have to be exact, because we know it's not black and white. You're not just looking for guys that are 6'3" and throw 95. Okay. Give us an idea of what you're looking for from a physical standpoint.
So it's funny, like the earlier I did recruiting, it used to be more about, the physical aspect of things. And trust me, like, it's a big part. Like we have a lot of guys that look great in a baseball uniform. But it's only part of the equation. So it gives us a really good base for guys. I think those guys, the development is a little less because they don't have to put on a ton of size. But we've got guys that throw 92 plus that couldn't really pitch for us this year. And then I got a side armor that threw 82 that had 5 appearances in the shortened season. So it's like, it's such a weird thing. Like, it's one of those things I don't think you'll ever figure out. And I think Major League Baseball is a good example. Like, they've gone to such an objective approach, I think, with analyzing players now, that now it's not just like, oh, that guy's, he's 6'5", he looks like a big leaguer, he's got big legs, like that's a guy that's going to get drafted in the 5th round. Now it's like, okay, that guy's great, but if he doesn't have XYZ, then he's not getting drafted. They've got to fit a model basically. So like physically for me, man, like it's not so much about how a guy looks, but it's about how a guy's body works. So like if I'm watching a guy pitch, I want to know like how is his body connected as he's getting down the slope? Like, is he riding his back leg? Is he getting good separation? How flexible is he? Like there's all these little things that, if we were watching like a guy pitch, we could kind of analyze a little bit. And it's stuff you guys probably do. I know you do quite often with the whole biomechanics side of things, but there's things I look for. The main thing I probably watch with guys is their lower half right now. Most of the guys we're looking at they're all throwing pretty good velocity at this point. It's like, okay, what separates this guy that's throwing 88 from this guy that's throwing 88? Why is this guy going to throw harder than this guy? And it's not an exact science. I get it, but you feel like you've seen a lot of guys that do certain things that end up progressing. So I think the lower half stuff is probably the number one thing I really try to look at.
That's awesome to hear, and everybody knows at Athletes Lab that's something that we focus on from a hitting standpoint, pitching standpoint. It's all about the lower half, how the body works, getting more functional, getting more athletic. So you heard it from one of the top pitching coaches in the nation from that perspective on what they're looking for. So it's extremely important for kids. What it comes down to is building a really, really good foundation. If they do want to get recruited at a high level, they have to be functional. They have to be athletic. Their body has to work. They have to be putting themselves in position, doing different things to get to that point. So that's really a whole nother conversation. But, that's some really good information there because, everybody is recruiting that guy that's throwing 88 to 90 miles an hour, and they're looking for that upside. But being able to take it a step further and be able to really get the guy that you think is going to be the best for your program and has the upside from there and the mental capacity and competes. That's a lot of subjective, type stuff there. I want to really highlight that to our listeners because that's what makes the job so difficult. You try to do what you can to get to know the kids as much as you can. So what are the type of things that you do to build the relationships, and what are you looking for off the field? I know you talked about academics and schoolwork, but whenever you're talking to kids, what are you looking for from that angle?
Well, it's changed so much because, shoot, the way recruiting is now, like you almost can't get to know kids with the way it is. Like you can't have face-to-face interaction with them. Half the stuff you're doing is on the phone. You can't call them. They got to call you. So, it's tough to really like say you can truly get to know the kid, but you try to do a lot of homework on the background stuff. You try to talk to their coaches. Obviously, you get a sense of them on the phone. I don't know if it's fair to evaluate a kid on the phone as a freshman or a sophomore because he's going to be a lot different by the time he's a freshman in college. But you want a kid that, can hold a conversation, that's going to be able to, check in with you frequently. And, when you ask him to get something done, hopefully he can do that, like whether it's get you a transcript, let you know when he's pitching, that type of deal. Small things like that. We try to do a lot with the family, so it's not just the kid, it's the parents. Try to make sure the parents are very involved. I don't know. It's a tough one. Like some teams are a little more fortunate, I think, like that, like a Vanderbilt, they can pretty much handpick whatever they want a lot of times, and they can get to know a kid a lot longer because a kid will wait and wait and wait. And, I'm not saying we don't have guys that, we can establish relationships and then commit, but like, it just seems like the committing is happening so fast. Like once we're in the heat of recruiting now, like in the summertime. So you just try to get a lot done in a very limited amount of conversations. That's my best way to go about it. But I think the one thing is if you talk to people that work with kids on a daily basis, whether it's their coach or like, people that have facilities like yourself that get to do a lot of the dirty work with kids, those are really good resources, just to get their opinion on how they're working. Are they actual? Because everybody works hard. That's what you hear, but it's not true. Like there's certain guys that really, really work. And those are the guys we want because those guys get better.
You're exactly right, and that's something we preach to our guys in our organization, and something you hit on. Guys, listeners, softball players, whatever it is, you have to be proactive in the process. Like, you hit on it. If we ask you to send a transcript, if we ask you to, send your schedule, stay in contact with email, they really have to understand that you have a lot going on. Let's not to mention from a recruiting standpoint, but managing a pitching staff standpoint, so they really have to be proactive in the process to help it out because the rules have changed and we really haven't gotten into that, but, people in the position that myself, Coach Beard, Aaron is in, we are not going to tell Coach Fecteau a lie. We're going to speak the truth. So we know the guys that are proactive in our organization in the area that are the true hard workers that you're talking about. And it's important to be truthful and communicate that to guys like yourself at a high level. That's the only way that trust and can be built throughout this whole process. So, go ahead.
The other thing that I've kind of found is like, you talk about your area being a good fan base for Virginia Tech, and I found that there's enough places in the country that like Virginia Tech, and there's enough kids that want to come to Virginia Tech, and that's the thing I've always said. Like, if I'm going to recruit a kid, like I want him to come to Virginia Tech because he wants to be there. Like he wants to come play for us and he wants to go to Virginia Tech. Like
that's a great point.
You find that out pretty quick. There's a lot of kids that want to come here, and I don't want a kid that's like, that's half in and half out and, doesn't appreciate like what this place is. So like that's why we've done a lot in this region, moving forward. We've done a lot in Virginia, Tennessee. We're trying like heck to get in North Carolina. It's tough with some of these North Carolina schools when you're competing against them, but there's enough good players in this state. So, but that's another big thing is just getting guys that want to be here.
That's awesome, man. That is a great point right there. Real quick, and I'm gonna let Coach Beard hop in to finish it up. But one thing I want to talk about, you being a Northern guy, so I know this is kind of near and dear to your heart. But I recently read, I think it was this morning, something about how potentially there's a proposal to change the landscape of college baseball. They're talking about moving the season back. They're talking about, when I mean back, they're talking about basically making it more of a spring and summer sport as opposed to something we used to always joke about down at USC Upstate with Coach Fincher. He'd always say, guys, you came here and you didn't know you were going to be you didn't know you were playing a winter sport. That was something. But really college baseball right now really is a winter sport. So there's a proposal out there. They're talking about pushing it back, and the College World Series would basically be played at the end of July. Talk to us what you heard on that real time here.
I've just read kind of the stuff that got put out there yesterday. I don't know the complete specifics on it. So, but the idea I like. I mean, I think it's good that, I think it'll put more fans in the seats. Number one, it puts guys in better playing environments. I mean, it sucks when you're playing in 35-degree weather. It's miserable.
Awful.
It sucks coaching in it. I can't imagine playing it. Well, it's been a while. So, but I'll tell you, man, like being in one of those northern schools, like when I was at Bryant, shoot, we would be on the road for like the first 6 or 7 weeks. And that kills the kids, man. Like, especially those schools that don't have the budget, they're not flying to these places. You're bussing all over the place. So like I remember we played Virginia Tech and we had to get on a bus from Rhode Island to Virginia Tech. Like, you're driving through the night. It's miserable. And so
academically as well.
Oh yeah. It's, there's a lot of good things, I think. I don't know what the hang up would be necessarily. I mean, it's going to save schools financially. It's going to create less missed academic time. I think the big thing is just support staff throughout the summer, that type of deal.
Right. Is the ACC, have they made any adjustments for next year's anything out yet as far as maybe playing double headers or anything along those lines?
For this upcoming season? No, we haven't had anything. I mean, everything's still normal right now. You hear me?
I think he froze. Coach, while he's froze, let me ask you a question, chime in. And forgive me, I probably should have stopped you earlier. One of the things that I really enjoy is the program building in those first couple years. You mentioned things you guys are doing with Brian Kane. I think this is your guys' third year in Blacksburg as a staff. What are some of the things that you guys are doing off the field to set your standards, implement your culture, really get things the way you want it inside the program that not necessarily have to do with the skill side of things?
Yeah, so I mean, the Brian Kane stuff, we kind of count that as off field a little bit. We tie a lot of it into practice, but that stuff's not even done on the field. It's all done in a classroom, to be honest. Now, we'll do some things in the community, like, going to elementary schools, that type of stuff, spend time with some of the younger students. Team building, like last year we went and hiked this place called Cascade Falls, like out of the gate, just kind of spent some time out in the woods with the guys a little bit. And then we took them paintballing. That's a little more team building stuff, but our guys, it's not even stuff that we handle mostly as coaching staffs. It's a lot done through the student development, player development stuff on campus, where we get guys involved with the community in different aspects. So our director of ops, Corey Haynes, he does a lot of that stuff where, he can get guys involved and try to get us out in the community and, helping out whatever way they can.
Gotcha.
That's good stuff, man. Well, let's wrap this up. Coach Fecteau, Virginia Tech, episode 18, powered by Under Armour. We can't thank you enough for coming on, for your wisdom, insight, the great things that are going on at Virginia Tech. We hope that baseball will be back sooner than later. I know you guys do. It's a long time coming, but we can't wait to get up there and see you guys. It's just a short track. Wish you the best, and we hope to have you on in the near future. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We'll get down there soon and see you.
Can't wait, man. Can't wait. Well, we'll see you in the near future. And again, I want to say a big thank you to our listeners. Episode 18, powered by Under Armour. Until next time.